everybody, Mike Iaconelli back out here in the shop, and we've got a great one for you today. And in today's shop, we're talking about how to spool a bait casting reel. How to put line on a casting reel. All right, I know it sounds simple, but there's a couple key things that I do for spooling my bait casters that are going to give you even line, longer, smoother cast, and in essence, because of that, you're going to catch more fish. So don't take this for granted, but this is the system I use for spooling my bait casters. First thing is your line, okay? So, I'm using a combination of fluorocarbon, monofilament, or braided line, depending on the conditions. So I want to take my line. First thing I'm going to do is take it out of the box. I'm going to set that spool down, and I'm going to put it through the guides, okay? As I'm doing this, I want to tell you that depending on your line type, you might want to use backing. In particular, I use about 10 or 20 yards of mono or fluoro backing when I'm spooling braid on a casting reel. And the reason I do that is I don't want the line to slip on itself. You got to remember, braid, super line, it's very slick. There's zero stretch in braid. So by using backing, you're going to help that line from spinning on itself, okay? So if you're doing this with braid, remember 10 or 20 yards of backing, mono or fluorocarbon, then tie a knot to your braid and then just pick up where I'm about to start now. Okay, the line is through the guides. First thing we've got to do is we've got to get this line into the spool. Before I even do that, I always want to tighten up my star drag. Tighten up your drag as tight as you can get it. You never want to spool a bait caster with your drag loose. If you do that, you have a chance to throw some slack into that even weave of the spool, and that's going to lead to backlashes, a knot on the cast. You don't want that. So tighten up your drag. Once I do that, I like to get my level winder to the center of the reel. That's going to help me get the line in the right position to get it tight around the spool. This is probably, honestly, guys, the hardest part of the whole process is getting that line through the winder. And all I'm going to do once I get it through the winder and under that spool is I'm going to tie a simple overhand double knot to the spool. That's all I'm going to do. So the system that I use, here it goes, guys. I've got that winder in the middle. Once I get that line through the winder, I use my index finger to get it underneath of the spool. You're going to see that line come out of the bottom of the spool. Once it comes out, I want to get it back up under the thumb bar. When I get it under the thumb bar, I'm going to grab that piece. And then I have to grab now the line that's under the spool, between the winder and the spool. The easy way to do it, just use the scissors you're going to use in a second. And don't cut it, but just use the scissors to grab that line, okay? When you do that, now you've got both ends of the line. I want it right in the middle of the spool, and all I'm going to do is a simple double overhand knot. So one knot, pull down, two knots, pull down, make sure it's tight. I'm going to get my scissors, and I want to cut that knot as close to that tie point as possible, right? So I want that tag end to be really small. Okay, so now my line's on the reel. The next thing, and this is a critical component, is how to get this line evenly and correctly on this spool. Okay, so the correct way to do it is as you reel, you can see that the line comes under the spool as you reel. So I want the line coming off the top of the spool to make it go on correctly, okay? So I want it coming off the top, but I want it just sitting here. I don't want to have a buddy to hold a pencil, anything like that. I used to use a stolen ice bucket from a hotel or a motel. But I'm more classy than that now. And I use just a little storage container, a little Tupperware container. This is a Sterilite. Let's see here. It's looks like a 15 inches by 7 inches. So just a small little container. And I'm going to use that to place my spool inside of that to help it maintain that nice even spooling. And remember, line always coming off the top of the spool. So I'll just set that down. I'm going to set it right here on the boat trailer. Remember, as I put this spool down, don't look at the label because that doesn't matter. The thing that matters is you want the line coming off the top of the spool. So I'm just going to put that right there in that little bucket, okay? Now, I want to step back, and before I start going crazy and winding this line in, I do one last thing, and that is I want to take some of that memory, some of that chalk off of that spool. Remember, these things are bulk spooled. They're in a machine. There's all kinds of film and stuff that I don't want on the line. I want a smooth, long cast. So I use just a real simple silicone spray. You can get it from a hardware store. There's a couple companies like a Real Line Magic, a Real Snot, that make a real nice silicone spray. I'll just shake that thing up, and then I'm going to get just a really soft cloth. And this is the same kind of cloth you would use if you were waxing your car or shining up your boat, right? Something that's very soft. And all I'm going to do with that silicone spray is I'm just going to make a wet spot right here on the rag. I just want to get this one section of this soft cloth really damp, okay, and get that silicone on there. And then all I'm going to do is, as I'm spooling this line in, I'm going to run that line through that cloth, okay? That silicone is perfect. It's going to come through smooth. The cloth's not going to burn it. It's just going to remove some of that grime, some of that mechanical stuff that's on there, okay? All right, here we go. We're going to start spooling this in. And you can hear that line. You can hear that line coming off of there. And I always want it coming off the top. And as it comes off of that spool, I'm keeping pressure with my thumb and my index finger. Not a lot, but just a little bit to make sure it's coming through that cloth. And I just wind it in. The one thing I do is I like to keep an eye on how it's going on. And I kind of use my fingers to steer the line left to make sure it goes all the way left. Steer the line right, make sure it goes all the way right. Steer it left, steer it right, steer it left. And just make sure it's going on evenly. And I'm going to keep doing that, guys, until the reel is, you ready for this? Very, very critical component. We never want to overfill that reel. So I want to keep doing this till there's about 1/8 of an inch to the end of the spool. Okay, so I'm watching it the whole time. I'm going left, I'm going right, I'm going left, I'm going right. I'm keeping my eye on it because the worst thing you could do, guys, is to overfill this reel. That's going to lead to backlashes. It's going to lead to bad casts. I'm going left, I'm looking right. And again, I'm making sure the whole time I want that line coming off the top of that reel. If you've got a really big spool, you know, if you're spooling more than, say, 150 yards, you can come back in with some silicone spray, spray it again, and just get back to it. Going left, going right, going left, going right. Using my fingers to help that thing put it on evenly from left to right. It's critical to pay attention to not overfill this spool. Okay, I'm just about done. I'm going to get 2 more turns on it. I'm going to show you what it looks like. Okay, and there we go. Okay, I'm going to cut the line. Okay, and now I've got the line on that reel, and if you notice, that's 20-pound fluorocarbon. It went on even. There's no ruts or divots in it. It's smooth. All that chalk is gone from the line. And on the Ike Revo reels, if you noticed, I made sure that the top 1/8 of an inch of that spool, I had them make it a different color. So on this Ike Revo, that 1/8 of an inch is purple. So I know exactly when to stop. But if you don't have that on your reel, make sure you leave about 1/8 of an inch empty. You never want to overfill that reel. Man, this seems so simple, but yet there's a lot of pieces to it. I hope you enjoyed it. This is the system that I've developed over 30 years of fishing, and this is how I spool my baitcasters, my conventional reels. Man, I hope you like these shops. If you like what you're hearing, do me a favor, stop right now, hit the subscribe button, become a subscriber to my channel. If you're already subscribed, tell your friends. If you know someone that's new to fishing, if you know someone that's been fishing for 50 years, tell them about Mike Iaconelli Fishing on YouTube. We're here to help you learn and hopefully become a better fisherman. Hope you use those tips. Spool up your baitcaster. Catch a big one. Bye.